Alright, so welcome back. This is DJ Shortbus, and this is part 2 of using a simple Earth build that's at level 40. And we went out to the Clefothic War Zone to test this build out. I already know how it's going to turn out, but just show you how this simple, kind of balanced build can, effectively solo. Can't find anybody else, but you still want to get the, the SCR, maybe some of the achievements out there. You can go do this by yourself with this build. So we're going to start off with a simple group of horrors, and this is like in an area I like to think of as sort of a valley area, and it's got an unstable brute surrounded by four or five of the lesser horrors. I think it's 4, and we're just going to go ahead and fight them. And one of the things you may have noticed is I switched from DPS roll to tank roll. Still doing range stuff, but I'm going to have regeneration as my slotted passive, and I'm going to have a little bit more defense and hit points while I'm doing this. Obviously not as much damage output, but the name of the game here is to survive. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start the fight off. We're fighting the guys, and I'm going to do my best to take out the individual guys. Although I think right here I actually try taking on the unstable brute before taking out the other guys. But you'll notice that it's like my health is going down rather quickly here. But instead of time, I hit resurgence. Boom, we're back in the fight. And I'm still losing some health, but I'm taking down another guy. I got one more little guy to take down. Now the fight's actually more in my favor. And all I got to do is finish off the last guy, and boom, I'm done. Pick up the fat loots, and we can move on to the next thing. Now, normally what happens is, in this valley, you've got the Nightmare Demolisher and a couple unstable brutes with him, but where the heck... Oh, wait a minute, they're up on that hill? Which makes you just wonder how they got up there. But usually they're walking through here, they may get stuck on a group. My guess is somebody ran up there to get away from them, and they just never came back down. So we're going to go ahead and pick a fight with them. And again, the idea is we want to take down the smaller guys, who are the unstable brutes, and then take out the Nightmare Demolisher. So, might be while I'm fighting all 3, I'm going to be doing a lot of blocking. I'm going to be using other forms of damage mitigation and such. Hit the resurgence, hit the potions, all that good stuff. Rely on blocking, rely on putting out a DOT and letting that do the damage while I'm waiting for my resurgence to come back, while I'm waiting for my potions to come back. Again, the name of the game is survive out here. And yeah, block, 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 block. It's a whole lot less damage than not blocking. I'm not a fan of steamrolling content. I'm not saying that, like if you can, get it over and done quick. But I like a little bit of a challenge, hence why I like coming out to the QWZ. Okay, so we've got one of them taken down. We've almost got the second one taken down. And you can already see, like, a bit of a difference other than, smacking me around and calling me Susan here. The fight's under my control. Now, one of the things that kind of sucks about fighting the Nightmare Demolisher is he's got 2 buffs on him that are just like, one of them is just straight up, he's very invulnerable and just mitigates damage to a certain point, and the other one is that Clefothic aura, which it's just like, okay, so ranged attacks aren't all that good on him, and area effect attacks, so it's like, if you're not hitting him with a melee single target attack, forget about it. I'm not saying you can't still fight him, though. Obviously you can, and we're going to be doing that, but it's going to be a long fight. And it also, just kind of blows, even on a melee character. It's like, well, you might be using your combos most of the time. Well, those are AoE ones. You're going to have a bit of a damage debuff on you for attacking him. He's going to be protected by that stuff, I guess you could say. Depends, I guess, how you look at it. So, he's going to be a long fight, but we're going to get through it. And we're going to use everything that we can to finish the fight, because you'll notice I'm not having to hit resurgence anymore. I'm not having to use potions anymore. Heck, there's even stuff that'll pop up that'll drop, like when he gets to 1/3 of his health, or we'll say 2/3 of his health, then 1/3 of his health. Things will drop, like there's that. Well, I'll go ahead and get that. The defense buff, but like you know, if a green drops, yeah, let it sit there for a little bit. And I don't know, might disappear. Might not need it. Yeah. Meanwhile, he loves to knock you around. Yeah, and that's something you need to be aware of when you're in the Clifothic War Zone. And that is the knockabouts. The knockabouts, I make it sound like it's Australian or something. No, getting knocked around in here. Because it's one thing to just get knocked back. It's another thing to get knocked back into another group, and now you're fighting two different things at once. Sometimes it makes it for fun. Hey, you wanted a challenge? Here you go. Sometimes it just makes it take that much longer. And if you've got people on your team who aren't ready for that, it can make things even tougher. Something else to keep in mind is whenever you're out here in any of the areas, and you have 2 or more people on your team, or we'll just say 2 or more people, or I'm sorry, no, let me correct that. If you've got 3 or more people, either on your team or just around the area, what will happen is one of the things that you're fighting in a group will say, hey, we need reinforcements, and it'll go, and you'll see it back away. It'll go over and grab another group, and sometimes if it's something that speaks English, like the robots, that's a weird sentence to say, it will say, hey, we need reinforcements over here, and then you'll have more groups that you've got to fight. So there's a little tip for you there for being in the QWZ. So that was the horrors, or I should say that was the like Into the Nightmare mission, and that was probably one of the toughest things out here to fight. So we're running over to the Temple of Forgotten Gods, and we're going to fight a couple other groups of the horrors, and you can decide for yourself, you know, like, you know, is this easy or not? And yes, it is. It makes it very easy. Okay, so when we're looking at these soul torturers, what's interesting is the 2 that are like on this side, if you will, like the one we got targeted and the one closest to us, they're actually farther apart from each other than the guy in the middle. So we're going to target the guy in the middle, and we're going to hit him with the earthquake and the other stuff, so we can, you know, start damaging the other guys. Now, of course, most of what we're just doing there is, you know, just hitting their shield and removing that. But, you know, still, it's, you know, get as much as you possibly can. Kind of max out the numbers there. I don't have the means to, like, squish them all together. I've had other tunes that have, like, a little bit of a, you know, a knock, and if you just tap it as opposed to doing the I'm going to try to send this thing to the moon type thing, you can, like, get them all together, and then you can hit them nice and easy with, like, a combo attack, a blast attack that has an AoE, whatever it is that you're doing. All right. Now, something else to think about when you're fighting these guys is they're going to summon up these mutilated scythe hands, and they're the soul torturers. What does that say there? Soul torturer something. It's kind of blurry in my screen there. But when you're fighting the soul torturers, if you kill the soul torturer that summoned one, the thing that it summoned will disappear on you. So, you know, you can decide, do you want to, you know, break off the attack and attack the summoned things, or do you just want to continue fighting the soul torturers? Because eventually these guys will despawn as well. So you might as well stay on the soul torturer. And of course, another thing with the soul torturers is they don't, you know, like all the other rogue purple things out here, they do not move. They don't chase you. You can move them, but they will not chase you. They won't run from you. They'll just be there. They'll knock you around too. Yeah. So one of the things that makes this fight go a little bit longer is that they keep summoning up the force fields. So if you were like hitting with a lot of AoEs and stuff, it's possible that your AoEs were just hitting the force fields and such, and you can either work them down because they have like a set number of, we'll say, hit points, or you can just wait for them to despawn, depending upon how you're looking at it. But of course, despawning, it means, I don't know, you're wasting some time. But your best bet is just to focus fire on one of them while you're, you know, doing the fighting. And of course, with the earthquake attack, we can see where it's sort of juggling them a little bit of crowd control, preventing them from attacking, or you know, doing other maybe crowd control effects that they have. I don't know if it acts as an interrupt. I guess it kind of does if they were trying to do something and then it just got interrupted. So that could be kind of useful. I wouldn't try it on the dogs. I would just timing it would be weird. And by the dogs, I mean the ones over at Kiga. Anyway, we're almost done. We've narrowed it down to just one guy left, and we're just going to blast, 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 hit him with debuffs, blast, 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 and boom, he's dead. And that takes care of this fight. And something else I like to think about is, and I'll probably mention it again in another video, is if you're doing the Secrets of the Shadow Cult mission, this is a great way to get them. Sure, you could go into one of the little areas that has, you know, one of those pedestals with the book on it, and, you know, you could possibly get two. You got one for sure, and then maybe a second one with the purple guy in the robe who's guarding it. But with here, you've got a shot at 3, potentially. You know, obviously anywhere between 0 and 3, depending upon how lucky you are. But if you find that fight easier, maybe that's the way to go, as opposed to fighting, say, a group like this, which is, even though this is not for the Secrets of the Shadow Cult, it's like a lot of the same. It's the same sort of a group. You got a guy with the robe, and then you got some random critters that are with that guy, and they're all protecting the book. In the other case here, it's just, what is this? Oh, Dark Disciples. Yeah, you would be going after these groups where they have a Dark Disciple and then the other guys to get credit for that. You can do that 5 times. Okay, and one of the things that I did here was I took the Dark Disciple out of the fight from the get-go, not by defeating him right away, but by moving away from him, basically pulling like a old-school EverQuest type thing, and bringing him over to, or bringing these guys down to the little valley thing. And as you can see, he's hanging out there and not really doing much because we're away. But he's still mad. I'm still his target. But now we can finish him just by him by himself. And that's, you know, I don't know why they don't move. I'm not the guy who coded this thing. Maybe they had issues where, like, well, we gave them feet and they just went all over the damn place. We let them walk, and they just kept going all over the place and fighting everything. It was just weird. They went over and talked to the worms and pissed them off. I don't know. It was some weird stuff. But anyway, so we're just gonna, you know, fight this thing with you know, whatever attacks we got. And, you know, I basically think that I've shown you everything that you can fight here if you just wanted to fight in the horror section. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and stop here. And we'll next thing we'll do is we'll head over to the worms for a little bit of that. And I'm obviously not flying over to the worms right now, and I'm definitely not on an Earth thing. All right.